Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. And we're looking at DC and the X-Men. Let's move on to Cosmic Marvels, Spider-Man, and, well, more miscellaneous Marvel. Going to kick things off with Guardians of the Galaxy number 11. Where we left off, Universal Truth had captured most of the cosmic heroes and using cosmic villains, and was using their life force to power the ship. A handful of the Guardians went after them and got captured, including Star-Lord, who learned that leading the church now is none other than his father, Jason of Sparta. Jason of Spartoi. Yeah, I think that's it. Jason. Anyway. Jason has explained his plan to Star-Lord about, oh yeah, well we're going to borrow, we'll take some life force from Earth, not the whole planet, just one of the smaller continents, and use that to empower our emissary. And it turns out they've got a legion of cocoons, which, admittedly, hey, I think we all had that thought that it was going to be Adam Warlock in the cocoon, but it turns out it was Drax within the cocoons, and so Star-Lord basically tells his dad to shove it, gets chucked into the chamber of cocoons just as one of them's hatching. That's when the Drax reveal is made. Only it's Drax without, memories. Just with, just destroy. Meanwhile, in an effort to rescue Peter and the rest of the Guardians, Groot Groot and Moondragon have found Rocket, and convinced him to help. Turns out, though, that Rocket is dying. Like, dying. And it's not a pretty death, either. And Rocket suggests they get aid from somebody else. A child version of the Magus, the evil clone of Adam Warlock. And usually, the savior of the Universal Church of Truth. And so they're going after the church. So they're fighting off the Draxes. Moondragon makes one of learn. Okay, let me make sure you're not my father. Like, okay, you're not. Cool. And obliterates them. And Magus goes after Jason. But as a precautionary measure, the other brainwashed heroes had been released, and they managed to save Jason from being killed by Magus. Well, heroes and villains. We get a good look at who all's there. We got the Starjammers, we've got Gamora, Darkhawk, Beta Ray, Beta Ray Bill, Bug, Ravenous of the Annihilation Wave, Nebula, Major Victory, Lockjaw, Quasar, Terrax, Firelord, various others. And they've also managed to take down Groot and Star-Lord. During the battle, Beta Ray Bill tosses Stormbreaker through Groot's mech armor, however, which is also keeping him alive, and manages to basically cut it in half with his hammer. And so the Guardians are seemingly beaten by the other. By the various brainwashed cosmic heroes, or beings. And you're about to. However, there's one last wave to worry about. The little Groots, who pull Rocket out of his armor, hand him a gun, and, well, basically have him go to save everyone. And that's where the issue ends, with Rocket walking down a corridor to the ship. Alrighty, moving on to Black Cat Annual #1. And no, it's not a joke. That's the issue is promising the wedding of Spider-Man and Black Cat. So we begin on a rooftop in New York. Black Cat's trying to convince Spider-Man to help her. And she basically said, hey, you want to, I'm going to you because I trust you, you can handle yourself, and you want to help people. So he's in. And, well, just so the tux that she's got won't only fit him. So we learn about the Magia. The Magia have a weird tradition called the Wedding of the Martyrs. The way it works is this: when two Magia families have beef, bad blood bordering on war, then the martyrs are wed. Two Magia youth, a prince or princess of each family, are brought together on the sacred occasion at St. Nicholas Church in Northport, New York. They're wed in an ancient Magia tradition, bound together by oath and law, reminding their duty to their family and tradition of what's expected of them. And then the priest opens the door that only he can, and ushers the martyrs through, and everyone waits, while the newlyweds fight to the death to settle their family's differences. So, it turns out that Spidey and Black Cat have taken the places of the martyrs, with the goal of breaking into the super secret room. Back in Midtown, the Doc is doing his part of the job. And in Jersey, the getaway car is being procured. back in Northport, turns out that the underneath the church is basically a secret mob crypt, complete with booby traps, which thankfully Spider Sense can, detect. So, and then there's also the guardian of the tomb, an old Hydra dreadnought. So, Spidey and Black Cat managed to fight the dreadnought. And win. Meanwhile, it turns out that the whole thing is to get bank numbers for the secret bank the Magia uses, which the Doc has basically, after getting out of booby trap, he's utilized it to withdraw $3 million, which is then brought to the getaway car. And delivered to, of course, their driver, who's in a Hydra outfit. Back in the church, one of the members of the family gets a notification on his phone that $3 million has just been withdrawn from his account. He calls and his voice written Cobra confirmed, so then the martyrs exit the room, now wearing Hydra masks as well, proclaiming Hail Hydra. So it turns out that the getaway car, it's got a submarine mode to it, so that gets used to get to the church. Smoke bombs go off. Our two martyrs, Spider-Man and Black Cat, escape the church, hop in the car, and it turns out that the whole job was to steal $3 million. Well, $1 million is what's mentioned for two Magia kids. And it's explained that both their parents, or the guy explains that his mother was a martyr twice over. The girl explains that her father was one 3 times, and they're raised to believe in doing this until one day you're called to wed. You're called to be wed, and you find out that you're being told to kill someone you've known all your life. Of course, what they claim is that they only took $2 million. And, in fact, that's what Spider-Man is told as well. And Felicia says, "Yeah, hey, here's, gives the kids $1 million. And says, as for our half, it'll go to charities throughout New York." She explains that the only way she could have gotten Spider-Man to help is if she were to do the job pro bono. And so Spider-Man gives some advice. Spider-Man and Black Cat then reminisce a bit about, well, apparently this is not the first time that Black Cat has asked Spider-Man to marry her. Way back in Spectacular Spider-Man 300. So They head on off into the night. Of course, Black Cat not telling Peter that her guys stole 3 million and not 2. And she explains that she's already got the crew's next gig lined up. It's a museum job. Setting this shortly before Black Cat #1. And that is where the issue ends. I had to admit, I was actually very curious as to what was going to be the pretense for the wedding. And I'm almost surprised. It's nice to see an annual that tells a story. No backup stories. Just, there's a story. You got it. Anyway, next up we've got Morbius, the Living Vampire, #1. Wow, that's kind of amusing, actually. The legacy number on Living Vampire is only 42. Anywho, first off, who is Morbius? Well, for that, we'll flip to the back of the comic. Michael Morbius was born with a rare blood disorder. Seeking a cure, he devoted his life to medicine and became a Nobel Prize-winning researcher. As his efforts to find a cure proved fruitless, Morbius grew impatient. He developed a new treatment using vampire bat DNA and electroshock therapy, and he tested on himself. The experiment successfully changed his genetics, but at a terrible price. Morbius gained the ability to fly, a regenerative healing factor, and a unique hypnotic stare, but in turn he's grown fangs, becomes weaker when in sunlight, and walks the earth with an unrelenting bloodlust. So, we begin in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. The Melter is working on something, but some of his flunkies burst in, and so he's got Morbius is after them, and Morbius wades through the flunkies, fights Melter. Even manages to take a couple shots from Melter's gun, and take some of the supplies that Melter is using. He is trying once again to cure himself. He's come up with something, so he tries a new serum, and it seems to be working. The hunger is gone, his fangs have seemingly disappeared. Back at Melter's hideout, though, he's not too happy about his stuff getting stolen, and the fact that his security contingent, is still alive rather than having been killed by a vampire. However, a woman arrives saying, "Hey, look, I'll help you get your stuff back and also take care of the person who did this. Because we both want the same thing, the death of Michael Morbius." And it's been a while since Morbius had his own ongoing, like a good 20 plus years, so you'll forgive me if I don't recognize the supporting cast. Back at Morbius' makeshift lab, something has gone wrong with the serum, and the hunger's back. Yeah, it was a very temporary stopgap. And so, yeah, he's back on his bullshit. And that's where the issue ends. Honestly, I really wish he'd go back to his old 90s costume. Sorry, but the whole, black singlet with with open chest to about it's open from about the shoulders to midway down to about the bottom of the chest. Yeah, no. But the leather getup he wore back in the '90s, actually looked pretty decent. Maybe not the tattered cape add-on, but the rest of it looked good. Hey, there were some good things that came out of the '90s. Some, not a lot, but some. All right, so final book of the week. We've got Punisher Soviet #1, which is in fact a Marvel Max comic. So first off, what is Marvel Max? So the Marvel Max line is, when it started, it was best and most often compared to DC's Vertigo line. It's a mature reader's imprint, kind of anything goes type of thing. Blood, guts, profanity, violence, sex. Everything's fair game. The flagship title for the line was The Punisher, written by Garth Ennis, who had come upon a bit of well-earned notoriety, in part due to his his Vertigo title, Preacher, as well as one of the first Marvel Knights Punisher books. The 12-part story, Welcome Back, Frank. Well, to be perfectly honest, what the Max line was is actually much more similar to what DC's Black Label imprint is, and we're getting a brief return of it with this miniseries. So this is actually not. It was eventually stated within the comics that the Max titles, by and large, do not take place on the same Earth as regular Marvel titles. There are exceptions. For example, Brian Michael Bendis' Alias series, which introduced Jessica Jones, that does take place in the regular Marvel universe. However, Garth Ennis' Punisher most certainly does not. So, Punisher Soviet. We begin with Frank looking over a basement. 7.62 millimeter shell casings all over the place. And he remarks that most of the rounds went into the people, not the wall. Which means someone who's got experience with an AK, because that's what it takes to hold one of those on target at full auto. On target. At full auto, an AK wants to wander everywhere. But one long burst to put them down, a shorter one to drop the runner, headshots is required, and no one even got to pull their weapons. Punisher remarks it's not just good work, it's great work. The only problem is it wasn't him. Turns out he'd been tracking the crew for a couple of months, part of something bigger, and that had taken a strange turn. So he's sitting with an informant of his, gets some intel. Apparently, there's a Russian crime boss trying to go legit and laundering money to do so. So some intel gets passed along to Frank, and he makes use of it. Going after a convoy. And then following it to a makeshift base, and then leaving a bomb in the back of the van. Frank does manage to find one of the mobsters, starts torturing him, and starts learning about some of the other hits done by the guy from the basement. So, turns out that this is someone who actually follows, has a similar similar style of Punisher, biding his time, going ahead when the risk to civilians was minimal, nothing more than what was necessary. Well, he followed a few lieutenant of the mafia boss's lieutenants to a club, and suddenly people start running out, claiming there's a shooting. Someone's getting shot inside, and some girls came flying out of the back room, and everything was started. And so, trying to okay, well, that's another sign to go in. So he does, and presumably comes upon, well, the dead mobsters and their killer. He's holding up a glass and saying he figured that Frank would be along sooner or later. That's where the issue ends. And that is it for this week's Comic Roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.